Welcome to the Songwriter Connection podcast, where we look at the craft of songwriting through the eyes of the songwriter. Each week, we make a connection with a music maker, listen to their songs, and hear their stories. From Nashville, Tennessee, here's your host, Dave Lenahan.
Well, in the recent past, on the show, we've talked a lot about success and how you define it and making sure that you define success your way and enjoy the journey on the way. We also talk a lot on this podcast about the double-edged swords today in the business. There's the business side, which is brutal as ever today. But, you know, record companies are making record profits. It's crazy. Unfortunately, artists not doing as well unless you got a major record label deal and lots of money behind you. But the double-edged sword is, with the internet and the way it's changed the industry today, I'm not even sure you need a record label anymore. I mean, look at guys like Oliver Anthony we talked about recently. His rich man from North Richmond, you know, viral sensation, turned down an $8 million record deal. You can be a very successful musician if you have that passion and you want to get out there and start performing like our guest today, who's been doing it for a while.
A long time.
And we are really happy, and I'm really thrilled to have Donna Frost with us. Hiya, Donna.
Hi, Dave.
You had a gig before you came here.
Oh, yeah. You know, people call me the hardest working woman in show business. I don't want to let people down. I got it.
You do. I'll tell you a little bit. Donna travels thousands of miles a year, playing her music all across the country. You played in the UK, the Caribbean. You've been all around. TV, interviews. You're award winning. I read this today. I was like, it nine ASCAP awards, ASCAP Plus Music Awards for your artistry and performing. Right. Amazing. A prolific songwriter. 10 albums.
Yes.
5 of which recorded during the quarantine.
Right. In the past 3 years, I wrote, recorded, and released 5 CDs.
Amazing.
Of new music. I just got inspired, and I was going through so many things during the pandemic that, it was not just, the running out of the work and the uncertainty of what's going on, and then, of course, going through losing my mother.
Oh, yeah.
And different things. There was a lot to write about. So I was just, I've got a bunch of new stuff I've written too. So
well, that's great.
The pen keeps going.
You don't stop, do you?
No.
That's just awesome. And I love how you just made the most of the time during the quarantine. Yes. You were busy. You kept writing and recording, and that's fantastic. She has been at the Kerrville Folk Festival. In fact, was a finalist there in 2004. She plays, so just about, and we don't talk genres. I hate genres, but I will even say that you were in a punk rock band called The Bunnies.
Yeah.
So you have just spanned all of what they call genres
and
today.
I played heavy metal, too, for a while. Yeah, that was not a good idea. But anyway, I was in that circuit for a while. I had the big black hair and the spandex. I'm not kidding.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm afraid so.
I bet you there's pictures out there.
Oh, yes. And I try to bury them. I don't want anybody seeing that. But, so I guess, I get labeled Americana. And, of course, I won the Best Americana Artist Award in Mississippi in April.
That's
the
awesome.
Mississippi Music Foundation. It was such a thrill.
How about that?
And my new album, Beautiful and Seen, has been working on Americana radio, and we're on a bunch of stations now.
That's one of the things I wanted to mention. In the last month, you've had charted songs on the Americana charts and also the gospel charts.
Yeah, I've got my gospel singles doing really well. I'm 66 years old. I don't care who knows it. And the first time in my life...
And you're beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
You look fantastic.
Thank you, Dave. I have a top 25 song in Cashbox.
That's
and I used
awesome.
to read Billboard in Cashbox when I was a kid. I read it all the time because my Aunt Mary worked at RCA and my Uncle Felton, so...
I want to talk about your aunt and uncle on down the line. We need to talk about them. Yeah.
We will talk about them. But I would read their cash boxes and billboards religiously, and so... at this, especially right now in my life, to have a record on Cashbox at number 25.
Wow. What song is it?
It's called God Knows.
God Knows.
Yeah.
Can you play it for us?
Sure.
Awesome. Donna Frost is our guest. We've got a lot to talk about. Stick around here on the Songwriter Connection. Let's hear this song.
All right. watching the sunset in a desert sky. I'm overcome with the feeling inside. But this is truly where I belong. I've been singing a brand new song. I was led here for a special reason. In this ever-changing season, it's all part of the plan. The more I see, the more I understand. God knows, God knows, God knows. I put my trust in Him each day. God knows He'll never let me go astray. God knows, God knows, God knows, God knows. God knows what's best, what is right. He always has me in His sight. God knows. Troubles and trials, I've had my share. There were times I felt life was so unfair. God was here for me all the way. I will sing His praises every day. God knows this is my destiny. Through His amazing grace I'm free. Jesus made the sacrifice for a world full of sinners such as I. God knows, God knows, God knows. I put my trust in Him each day. God knows He'll never let me go astray. God knows, God knows, God knows, God knows. God knows what's best, what is right. He always has me at His sight. God knows, God knows, God knows.
Try not to sing along with that one, man.
Yeah,
That is catchy. I love it.
Thank you.
Little rock and roll in your gospel. Huh?
Yeah, I got a little rock. And you know what's wild is that it's on the Southern Gospel charts too.
Oh, isn't that
I'm on
great?
Southern Gospel. I thought maybe it'd end up on like contemporary Christian or country gospel or something, but it's on the Southern Gospel
How
chart.
about that? That's
Yeah.
awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank
It's a great
you.
song.
Well,
It's out there. Folks can download it, listen, and
Yeah,
stream it.
and it's going up a chart. So
That's great. That's
hey,
great.
If I get a number one, I'm going to freak out.
I hope it is. By the time, wouldn't it be great if by the time this publishes, which is November 1st,
Oh, man.
if it'd be number one, check it out, man. That's awesome.
That would be too cool. I
Very happy for you.
if I
Talk
ever
about
had a
success. That's
yeah.
success.
If
Yeah.
I have a number one, I mean, you dream about that stuff. And of course, I'd heard somebody say recently that when you have your music, just to get played on the radio is such an honor.
Yeah.
Because there are so many songs out there. And so if you can get played, which I've been blessed through the years of getting my stuff played,
Yeah.
but I have not had a number one. And I've never, I haven't pitched my stuff to other people to get cut. I've not really pursued that ever. I've just kind of done them for whatever. I'm just a performance songwriter and
There you go.
just kind of do my thing,
That's
so.
okay.
Yeah.
It's harder and harder in the pitch world today.
It is.
And that's why I just decided to record some of my songs myself and just getting them out there. And I think that's a good thing.
I think it is.
Now, you are from this area. You grew up in Franklin, right?
Yes, sir. Back when it was really a small town.
Franklin was a small town.
There was nothing to do.
Ah.
I mean, like back when I was growing up, I think the population of Franklin at the time, Dave, was about 12 or 13,000 people.
No kidding.
And it was small. People would cruise the square, and there was like nothing. I think like there was one restaurant, a Meat and Three Dots, or I think we had a Shoney's or something. But
it's grown a lot since then.
It's grown a lot since then.
That Main Street's a wonderful place for shopping and place to go when you visit.
Oh, it's absolutely wonderful. Yeah. So that's where I grew up, and I went to high school there, and I still go down there and play, play shows and stuff. And
that's great.
It's always going to be home, although Hendersonville's really my home now. So
I'll tell you, as the crow flies, it's not too far from my home in Henderson. If we can just build a bridge between
I know.
Hermitage.
If we had Saundersville Road, I could get here quicker. I mean, that's so crazy. And
it's nuts. Yeah, you got to drive all around the lake. So.
You got to drive all around the lake, and if I had a boat, I could just be here in no time from my house.
Right.
Yeah, just paddle on over here.
We need a boat.
We need a boat.
Now, this is incredible. Your story is absolutely amazing to me.
You.
Your legacy goes all the way back to your great-grandparents were musicians? Great-grandparents.
They were singers, gospel singers in the church, and my great-grandfather Stevens, Will Stevens, and they had the Stevens Quartet.
Oh, boy.
And then my great-grandfather, Reuben Andrew Jackson Frost. Now, he didn't have
Andrew Jackson Frost.
He didn't have, but Reuben Andrew Jackson Frost.
Reuben. Wow.
Now, he didn't sing, but he loved music, and my grandfather and his brothers sang, and when they first started, they were called Reuben's Rhythm Rascals.
I love it.
But then they became the Frost Brothers, and then my grandma and her brothers and her dad, Will Stevens, they were the Stevens Quartet. And so these two families were friends all along, sang together. My mama and my dad met in a church singing with their families. So then they got married, and Mom and her sister and Dad and his brothers started a quartet called the Frost Juniors. 2 weeks before I was born, they were traveling and singing. Wow. And I said my first road trip was at the age of 2 weeks old. They put me in a car bed. We went to Detroit for them to play. They played in Detroit, Michigan. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So that was my first road trip.
So you've been around it all your life.
I couldn't avoid it.
It's in your blood. You can't help but love music, huh?
It was my family's fault. And, like a lot of kids get, a lot of times people make their kids take a violin lessons or take piano. I wanted to.
You wanted to play.
And
I read it was piano first?
Yeah, it was piano first.
There's an interesting story about your first piano, isn't there?
Oh, yes, there is.
Yeah.
I bought it with my own money.
With your own money. And how old were you?
9.
Well, I got to hear this story.
Okay, here's the story. So here's the story. So when I took piano, my Aunt Mary was a piano player, you see, and I had really...
The one that worked for RCA Records?
And she played...
And Chet Atkins?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she was a piano player, and I wanted to play piano. Well, she got me... She paid for my piano lessons, but a piano was a bit more than my parents could afford.
They're expensive.
Mom and Dad both worked jobs, and they're expensive. So on the back of the comic books back then, there was like these ways to make money.
Yeah.
It said sell Christmas cards and make your own money. So I took my cards. My mama took them to her job. My dad took them to his job. Aunt Mary took them to RCA. Chet Atkins bought some of my cards. He did. Chet Atkins. And they'd have your names printed in it and all that.
Nice.
So I took my money from the Christmas cards, went to Kurt's Piano Company in Nashville, and bought an upright piano for $75.
Are you kidding?
Back then, now you got to think this was 1968.
Wow. So that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it was a lot of money. Yeah. No, it was sooner. It was 67.
67.
Yeah. Yeah, because the piano came first, then the guitar.
Ah, okay.
The guitar came later.
Round 11 guitar, which that's how old I was when I got my first guitar and started learning how to play. Yeah. So making and do you still play piano today?
I'm not very good at it. when I took up the guitar, the piano collected dust in the corner. The one I paid for all my hard-earned money.
You fell in love with that instrument, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
And it was just the Beatles.
Yeah.
Of course, I listened to the Beatles the whole time. When I was a little kid,
Me
that
too.
was my. But when I got old enough, I was like, man, I want to play guitar. And I wanted, because the Beatles, and then there was like Joni Mitchell and James Taylor and all these folk singers that I really loved and admired. So I really wanted to be a guitarist, and I took lessons, but then I'd go home after school every day, and I'd have my record player and my records, and I'd be playing.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
pretending, right?
Yeah.
Pretending we are those famous people. And,
you bet. Yeah, singing along.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is really, really cool. Interesting story.
Yeah, so that did it for me. Once the guitar came, I didn't look back.
Yeah, how about that? Now, your Aunt Mary and you had your Uncle Felton, both in the music industry.
Right.
Aunt, like you mentioned, worked for RCA. Felton did some really neat things,
yes,
too. Didn't he produce Elvis Presley?
He produced Elvis Presley, and before that, Felton was Elvis's producer from the time of the Comeback Special.
Oh, yeah.
Until Elvis died. Chet put them together because...
No kidding.
Felton, before that, worked with the Lowry Group in Atlanta.
Okay.
And he was a producer there, and he produced Tommy Rowe's first hits, Sheila and everybody. That's Felton Jarvis production.
Wow.
He produced Gladys Knight and early stuff, and Fats Domino, Red Sails in the Sunset. And he came to Nashville along with Jerry Reed and Ray Stevens and Joe South and Freddie Weller, and all those guys were all part of the Lowry Group come up here.
Freddie Weller, I remember he used to be in Paul Revere on the radio.
Yeah.
We lost him a few years ago. But he had some big country hits, too.
Yeah, he did. And so my uncle, he was a staff producer at RCA, and he was producing people like Waylon. He produced Willie.
Waylon.
Yeah,
Wow.
and he produced
And Willie.
Willie back when Willie had short hair, and stuff, and Skeeter Davis, who I ended up working with.
You were really good friends with Skeeter, weren't you?
Yeah, and I sang with her the last 8 years of her life.
I loved her.
But Mary and Felton met at RCA when she was working for Chet, and they got married the day Neil Armstrong walked on the moon.
No
was
kidding.
their wedding, and Uncle Felton kept running to watch the moonwalk during they got married at the house, and he was wanting to go see the moonwalk.
Wow.
But they were together, and then he died in '81. He had a lot of health issues, and he had a stroke 3 weeks. Like the week before Christmas in 1980, he had just finished a posthumous album he was working on of Elvis called Guitar Man, which was updated tracks to Elvis's songs. But now Felton...
And Guitar Man, I remember that came out around that.
Yeah.
He
and
produced
Uncle Felton
that record.
produced the original Guitar Man with Jerry Reed. And, of course, you've heard the Jerry Reed story.
Oh, absolutely.
About him
Tell it.
Oh, I'll tell it. So Elvis wanted that guitar sound like Jerry Reed, and Uncle Felton said, well, if you want that sound, I got to go get you Jerry Reed, and Elvis would go get him. Well, Reed was out fishing somewhere, and Uncle Felton went and got him and said he was just covered in mud and had on these old nasty clothes. He was out swimming. He was out fishing.
Yeah, right.
And he came to the studio in his fishing clothes and recorded it, so there you go.
Unbelievable.
But Uncle Felton...
He could fall out of bed and pick it,
Yeah,
he was amazing.
He was. And Uncle Felton produced all of the, like Suspicious Minds and Kentucky Rain and Burning Love and
great
all
songs.
those things. Those were Felton Jarvis productions.
No kidding.
And Mary,
Wow.
Aunt Mary, if you go to the Musicians Hall of Fame,
Which I want to shoot myself. I've not been there yet. As we're taping this, Ringo Starr just got put in there in the Musician Hall of Fame.
I wish I'd been there.
Me too. I was out of town.
Been there, but
yeah.
They have a thing called Source, which is for women in the music business, and my aunt was one of the first people put in the Source Music Hall of Fame. So when you go in, they have a wall for the Source, the women of Source, and the Musicians Hall of Fame, and you'll see Mary Lynch Jarvis.
How about that?
Right there. And when she left working with Chet, she ended up working with Fred Foster for a while at Monument, and then she quit to just take care of Uncle Felton full time and keep up with his stuff. But I mean, they had I was lucky. I mean, when I was a kid, I was hanging out with people like James Burton and Carl Perkins at my uncle's house with my guitar, picking their brains. Like, hey, man, show me how to do that.
I have an embarrassing story about James Burton.
You do?
Yeah. Before I retired, I was working at Lexus in Nashville.
Uh-huh.
And we had a new location over on Rosa Parks Boulevard, and I loved working at Lexus. I think it's a great product.
Oh, yeah.
But you never knew who was going to come in. You never knew.
Right.
And there was this guy comes in, and he's got a Fender T-shirt on, Doesn't look like anybody special. And so I shook his hand, I greeted him, and I go, "Do you play guitar?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, I do. I play a little guitar." I said, "Really? Do you play around here?" He goes, "Son, I've played with all your favorites and then some." And I go, "Really? I'm Dave Linehan." He goes, "I'm James Burton." I go, I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's funny.
So I'm an idiot. And a special kind of idiot.
Oh, that's funny. That's hilarious.
Drives a Lexus, though.
He drives it. Now we know what he drives. I think that's the last time I saw James. They did a thing at Studio B a couple of years ago before the pandemic. And it was called about the sessions with Elvis. And they had James was there, and Norbert Putnam was there, and Charlie McCoy. And,
Charlie McCoy.
And David Briggs. And I had a wonderful time talking to them. They talked about Uncle Felton.
Oh, wow.
And I'll give you one more Felton story.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
This is fascinating to me. I love this stuff.
Well, back when they were doing the Christmas album, The Wonderful World of Christmas, Uncle Felton was really having a time getting Elvis into the Christmas songs, and Colonel and RCA were like, "We need a Christmas album." And Elvis was not in the mood for it, so my uncle said, "I'm going to put a Christmas tree up." So my aunt, Mary, and Skeeter Davis went and got a Christmas tree off her farm, brought it to the studio. Then Aunt Mary called up my mother and said, "You got some Christmas decorations we can borrow?" I was like, "Yeah." So I'm like, our Christmas decorations were on the Christmas tree when Elvis was recording his Christmas album,
How about that?
So we were kind of there,
Yeah.
My ornaments were there. Our ornaments were there.
Well,
so.
that's cool. Very interesting. Now, one of your first shows was opening up with Jerry Reed and them,
yes.
wasn't it? Did I read it was at
War Memorial Auditorium.
War Memorial Auditorium, which at one time did host the Grand Ole Opry.
Yeah.
Prior to Ryman, yeah.
And my father had put together a show, and I think it was a benefit for the retarded citizens of Middle Tennessee, and it was a benefit show, and his quartet was singing, and Jerry Reed was a headliner.
Wow.
And I had this friend that I sang, and it's a little folk duo with, named Harriet Moran. She was a few years older than me. But we had our little matching pants outfits, and white crocheted vest and pants and a little orange shirt.
How old were you then?
13.
13. Oh, my God.
And we sang 2 songs. We did Both Sides Now by Joni Mitchell and Today While the Blossoms Still Cling to the Vine. That was my first real gig.
How about that?
And it was opening for Jerry Reed.
And there was no stopping
There
Donna
was
Frost.
no stopping.
Yeah,
No.
13. Wow.
13.
That's amazing. Let's pause there for another song, because I
All
want to
right.
hear another Donna Frost. Donna Frost is our guest. You're listening to the Songwriter Connection podcast. We appreciate you downloading, listening, and sharing, and hitting the like and subscribe button. So, Donna, what would you like to do for us?
Thank you. I want to play, this is a song that I wrote about, that Jack Howell and I wrote about my mom. And it's on, this is our single, but it's on the Americana charts.
Yeah.
Off The Beautiful Unseen. And it's called You Gave Me Life. And it's a song, it's not a sad song, it's a happy song celebrating my mom.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Who you lost just a couple years ago.
Yeah, 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we go. You were the first face that I saw when I came into this world, so young and beautiful. I was your baby girl. You watched me take my first steps, pick me up when I fell down. Your lullabies rocked me to sleep. It was the sweetest sound. You gave me love, you gave me strength, you gave me reason to believe. You gave me hope, you gave me song, you gave me all I'll ever need. But above it all, you gave me life, you gave me life. From the first day of school to guitar recitals and plays, you were always there for me in your very special way. From the dates and breakups, graduation in my first car. From marriage to divorce court, and playing shows at local bars. You gave me love, you gave me strength, you gave me reason to believe. You gave me hope, you gave me song, you gave me all I'll ever need. But above it all, you gave me life, you gave me life, you gave me life as I know it, as I live and breathe. Without you now beside me from the great beyond, I'll carry on, I'll make you proud. Every day I miss you, my best friend. By the grace of God we'll meet again. But until then, you give me love, you give me strength, you give me reason to believe. You give me hope, you give me song, you give me all I'll ever need. But above it all, you gave me life, you gave me life. Gave me life, you gave me life, you gave me life.
What a great tribute to your mom.
Thank you.
You wear her in a locket on your
I wear in
neck.
a locket. One of my friends had that made for me when she died.
Beautiful.
And I wish you could have met her because she would
Wish I
have
could have,
loved
too.
you. She was so sweet. She'd come to my show.
What was her name?
Barbara.
Barbara
Frost. Barbara Ruth Lynch Frost. And my middle name is for her.
Wow.
I was named after my mom and my dad because my dad's name's Don. So if I'd been a boy, I would have been Don. But I was a girl, so I was Donna.
Donna.
And then Ruth after Mama.
How about that? That's interesting.
Yeah, I miss
We're going to
her.
take a little break, and we're going to come back with more on Donna Frost. We got some great stories yet to come.
Yay!
Don't go away.
You're listening to the Songwriter Connection, connecting with music makers and hearing their songs and stories. Now back to the show with your host, Dave Linehan.
Hey, thanks again for joining us for the Songwriter Connection. Donna Frost is our guest. Remember, hit that like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and tell people about us. We're one of the fastest growing music podcasts on the internet. You know, we're recording this last week in September. You know, it's our first fall record. We record ahead of time, as you know, listening from this podcast. And this week we reached over 400,000 total streams.
Oh, wow.
So
That is fantastic.
That's a milestone.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll just keep growing it thanks to you out there. So.
Yes.
So Donna Frost is our guest, who grew up in the area and is quite the musician, the songwriter. A lot of her music out there. I've been listening to your stuff all morning, by the way,
thank
just
you.
streaming it on Spotify
Thank you.
over and over again. You got some cool stories and some cool songs. One of the stories I wanted to talk to you about, because I was a huge fan, and still am. I love Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, yes.
And you got a song about him
Yes.
and a story about the boss, and we got to hear it.
We got to hear it. Okay.
We got to hear the story.
You got to hear us. Okay, so
The Donna Frost Bruce Springsteen connection.
Yes. Oh, this is so cool. So back in 1981, and here, this is another Uncle Felton thing. Bruce Jackson, who has since passed away, he worked with Bruce Springsteen, but prior to that, he worked with Elvis as a sound engineer. Well, Bruce Jackson had gotten me tickets, front row seats at the Bruce Springsteen show in Nashville. And there
Wow.
was, and then we had like tickets a few rows back, which my brothers sat in. And they didn't want to be on the front row. I wanted to be on the front row. One of our friends sat up front with me. But so anyway, I'm dancing and I'm having a big old time. And all of a sudden, the song was Sherry Darling. It was the River Tour. It was in
The
1981.
River album. Yeah, double album. Yeah.
So he got me up on stage and we were dancing to it, and it's so surreal because I'm up there dancing with him, and Clarence Clemens is over there wailing away on the saxophone. I'm up on stage with him, And we're dancing, and then he throws me back and gives me a kiss. And
No kidding.
I go back to my seat, and you know it was so great.
Huh.
Everybody I knew was there. And they saw me.
You were the coolest person on earth then, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that was even before he pulled Courtney Cox. Everybody knows the story
4
about-
years before that.
4 years before he pulls Courtney Cox on,
Yeah.
and it appears in a video, and she becomes a star on Friends and everything.
Yeah.
But you did it first.
I did it first. I was there first. Shame on you, Courtney. I was there first.
You should have been in Friends.
I should have been on there.
You
That's right.
should have.
I should
But
have.
you know, you've done a lot of acting, haven't you?
Yeah.
Not just music, acting.
Yeah, I've done acting jobs.
Yeah. Did I read you played Janis Joplin?
Yeah, I did. It was a small theater production of Janis Joplin back, oh gosh, how long ago? It was 15 or so years ago at least, called Cosmic Blue.
Wow.
And it was a fictional interview with Janis the last day of her life. And
I would have loved to see that.
I did the interview, and then I did a concert segment.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you what's so crazy about it. We did it at some theaters around town, including Bongo Java's
sure.
After Hours Theater upstairs.
I saw a show there one time with
And
my friend Win Barble was in it.
That's a wonderful
Yes.
place to
Yes.
do a show.
Uh-huh.
Well, we had people of all ages at this show. We had people that remembered Janis, that saw her in concert, people that couldn't go see her back then, but they came to this show, people who were too young to remember her but were fans. And it was really cool, but I did it for a couple of years, but you know, it's a lot of money to go put it on a grand scale, and I didn't want to do that. And I didn't want to get tagged as a Janis impersonator either.
Yeah, no, I can
because
understand
once
that.
you get trapped in doing a tribute thing, you're trapped forever, and you
Yeah.
can't get out.
You gotta be
And I was
careful.
like, that's just a little part of me. It's not the whole sum of who I am.
Right.
So, but it was fun while it lasted.
I bet
was
it
cool.
was. And you were also on the Nashville TV show a lot.
Yeah, I did a lot of background work on there. I was on Nashville. I was in some music videos. I was in the Black Keys video Go. I got
Black
some,
Keys.
Yeah,
Ah,
I was
from
in-
my neck of the woods. I've
Yeah.
come from Ohio.
Yeah, I
They're
love
from
those
Akron.
guys.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I was in that video. I was just in one with Trey Healy for his song "Baby," and he's had some number ones on CMT. But he hired me to play ukulele on his video. So, I mean, I got my first gig as a backup musician playing ukulele on a music video. So that was cool.
Now, you play ukulele, you play mandolin,
Yeah.
anything with strings, and the piano.
Yeah, piano and bass.
And bass.
Yeah, I play bass too.
Yeah.
But, ukulele, and that's been a part of my life for a long time. My mandolin playing, so it's okay. But the one string instrument that I cannot play is a violin. I have a beautiful old antique violin in my house, but I can't play. It's horrible.
I wish I could play it too.
Yeah.
And mandolin too, because I love both the
I
sounds
do
of those
too.
instruments.
I do too. I can play songs with a few chords and mandolin, but guitar's my main thing, and ukulele, of course. So
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Wonderful. You even teach a little, don't you? Or
yeah, I
do workshops for.
I do workshops. I teach. I'm with Music for Seniors. I've been doing, and of course I've gone.
I love how you give back for that. That's
Thank you.
fantastic.
I've gone and done big ukulele festivals and played like the Reston Ukulele Festival up in the Lake Ann Ukulele Festival in Reston, and I was at the Allegheny Ukulele Soiree
Wow.
last year in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and I've done the one in Huntsville, and I've done stuff in Memphis and in Tampa and different things where I played and do workshops and. But also, Music for Seniors, I go out and play for senior communities. But something else we do is 6-week
great.
classes of ukulele for free. And also at my church, at First Baptist Church in Hendersonville, I teach ukulele every Monday when I'm not on the road. We've got about 15 folks in our class right now. Did our first performance this week for an event. And but I teach for free for them for that.
I love that you do that.
Yeah.
That's great.
I do all kinds of stuff because I thought
Given the
that-
gift of music.
Giving it back.
Giving it
That's what
back.
we're supposed to do.
That's awesome. Also, you writing a book, or did you already?
I've been, you know what? I've been working on it for a decade,
Have you?
and I quit working on it because I was so busy traveling. Then the pandemic hit,
Yeah.
so then I started writing. I thought, well, maybe that's why I haven't finished it because I need to write about how I navigated as a musician through all this stuff.
Right.
But then I was really doing well writing about that. But then my mother got COVID and got sick, and then of course we had 5 weeks of her in the hospital, and then she died. So I have not been able to go back and write because then I'd have to write about all that again, and I'm not ready to write about all that just yet. And, of course, then I had my own issues last year, and then my dad had, I mean, it's just been
one thing after the other with you.
One thing after the other, but I bounce back and I get back out there.
Do you find that writing songs helps you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if it hadn't been for music, and especially with all I've been through the last 3 years with my mother and losing my mother and my health problems last year, and then my dad with his stroke this year, which Dad's doing wonderfully.
That's great. That's
he
so
has
good to
made
hear.
a full recovery.
You were telling me he's playing guitar at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Guitar at 2 o'clock in the morning. He was this morning. I'm here to tell you.
Wow.
And he's doing very well. But between all that, so if it hadn't been for playing, writing, getting out and doing, I don't know what I would have done. I really don't know what I would have done. But music has helped me through it all.
Music has a healing power, doesn't it?
It does.
It really does.
It does.
Yeah.
It really does.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk more about that with a guest, Robin Ruddy, who's got a new record coming out the end of October called Healing Heart.
Oh, good.
And we're going to talk a lot more about that. So, yeah. How has your songwriting evolved over the years? I mean, you've done every genre from folk to punk rock.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. You know, I started out writing poetry when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And then I started putting music to it. And then I just kind of started dabbling in it. When we had the rock bands, I would write songs for it.
So you wrote for the
I wrote for
band.
I wrote for the Bunnies, and I wrote for the Paper Dolls, which was the all-girl band I was in.
The Paper Dolls?
Yeah, we were an all-female band.
Nice.
We were the only all-female band in Nashville. In fact, we got in Rolling Stone's Rock and Roll Almanac in 1985 for being the best all-female band in the Mid-South.
Wow, that's great.
Yep, we did.
Wow.
And so I had written or co-written a lot of stuff for the band. And then I did a lot of collaborating with people because I was told, everybody says you should. Mm-hmm. But then...
How do you feel about that? Do you like to co-write?
Yes and no.
Yes and no? I think there's just some things you have to write yourself, right?
You have to write something. There are certain people I can write really well. Jack Howell, for instance. Jack and I did an album 20 years ago called Feels Like Home that did really well for us. We collaborated. We played together. Mm-hmm. We had that magic. There's certain people... When you work with somebody, but you have that chemistry with.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're saying.
Playing, and Jack and I have it. And then we came full circle with it last year with The Beautiful Unseen, because he came to visit me when Mama died, and we started working on an album right then. And we wrote long distance on Facebook, and then I went out to California at his place in Joshua Tree and recorded it last year.
In Joshua Tree. I remember you telling me about that.
And got it done.
Wow.
But, I write by myself a lot because... It's easy. I can't be put in a writing room I used to do it. I used to go to ASCAP and write with people and all that, and I had people that I worked with all the time that I had a lot of fun with and all that. But when the Girls Like Us album came out, I started writing some songs on my own. Beth Travers and I'd written a lot of the album, but I wrote some of the songs on my own. And I kind of got into just being Lone Ranger until Jack and I got back together last year. So, the last few albums I put out, I just wrote them all by myself. It's easier with me traveling. I get ideas and I write them down then. They just come to me. And
while you're driving?
While I'm driving,
yeah,
so it's easier for me. And I know people have said, we need to write together. But it's really hard for me because I'm just so... But it's hard just to sit down and just throw, I want to write, what are we going to write about today? I got to feel what's coming out and just write it down as it comes.
Got to be inspired, huh?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. What inspires you?
Everything around me. Bruce Springsteen said you write about what you know.
Uh-huh.
So I keep my eyes, ears, and heart open at all times for ideas. And it could be anything, something somebody says, something that we're going through. In fact, with all of it, what we've gone through the last 3 years, I've written a lot of things about loss and survival and stuff because everybody's gone through something. And what really makes me feel good is when people tell me that, hey, that song really hit home with me and I really needed that, and just things they'll tell me about that. That makes it all worthwhile. You know what I call that? I call that payday. Yeah, that is payday. Yeah. It really is. I mean, that doesn't get any better than that. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It really doesn't. It's just like... doesn't. Yeah. It makes you... It also inspires you to do more. It does. Yeah. Got to do more. Absolutely. Well, speaking of more... Yes. Another song? What would you like to hear? I don't know. You'd get...
You pick, but I want the story behind the song. So I know you've got a newer record.
The Beautiful Unseen.
Beautiful Unseen.
Yeah.
The one cut in Joshua Tree.
Yes.
It's a great record. It's out there.
Thank you.
And I want you folks to check it out. Donna Frost is our guest. How about something from that record?
I would be happy to.
Yeah.
This is called If It Were You. And one of the places that I do, we were talking about doing giving back and all. I volunteer a time or two a month over at Room in the Inn to play music there.
Room at the Inn.
That's for the homeless.
That's right. Mm-hmm. The priest that was in charge of that opened that.
Yeah, Father Charles Strobel. He just passed away not too long ago.
Oh,
and they have
place.
a cafe. Don Schlitz plays there on Mondays.
Don Schlitz.
And he has for years.
Wow.
He's gone and played for those guys. That's how I found out about it.
Oh, about that.
And so I play for them, and they have a stage, and they have a cafe set up, and they get served a hot meal at nice table and chairs, and they have people serve them a meal, and then they have me or Don or whoever play for them during that, and gives them that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And,
that is great.
So this is called If It Were You, and this is about a couple of people I've met over there through the years.
Wonderful.
I met a man today. He was following a dream. He found an open door, but lost his self-esteem. No walls around him, sleeping in his car. But he kept holding on to hope. Someday he'd go far. What would you do if it were you? Would you give it up, see it through? Nothing lasts forever. Tomorrow is brand new. What would you do if it were you? Well, I made a friend tonight at the shelter downtown, trying to get on with life after the world had knocked her down. She'd been sick for weeks, it was touch and go for a while. No job, no home, on the streets alone, the pain was in her smile. What would you do if it were you? Would you give it up, see it through? Nothing lasts forever. Tomorrow is brand new. What would you do if it were you? Anything can happen, anytime at all. Anywhere you wander, anyone can fall into deeper than the ocean. What would you do if it were you? Would you give it up, see it through? Nothing lasts forever. Tomorrow is brand new. What would you do if it were you? What would you do if it were you? Anything can happen, anytime at all. Anywhere you wander, anyone can fall. Anything can happen, anytime at all.
What a Powerful message, Donna Frost. Great song.
Thank you.
I always think there with the grace of God go I. You know, I mean, you just never know, and I think that's just amazing.
Exactly. That's exactly what. We're all one step away from being that.
We really are. Yeah, one catastrophic thing.
One.
Yeah. I love that you and Don Schlitz do that. That's really fantastic.
And he's been doing it for years.
Has he?
It's just so cool. But he gives back that way, But
he's written a lot of songs, hasn't he?
Yes, he has.
Was that The Gambler?
The Gambler, yeah.
Heard of that one, huh?
I remember when he came to town, and I remember when he wrote it, and it was just like, I remember when "Don't Take the Girl" by Tim McGraw.
Oh, yeah.
Larry Martin, Craig Martin, and Larry Johnson. Is that right?
Well,
There used to be a place called the Bell Cove in Hendersonville when I first moved up there.
Yeah.
And David Chamberlain had a writer's night. And that was where I first heard that song.
Wow.
And everybody knew it was a hit. And then, of course, years later, it became a gigantic record. So,
wow.
Yeah. So,
are you getting ready to get back on the road soon?
I'm going to be going up to Cincinnati tomorrow.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Where are you playing there? That's my old stomping
I'm
grounds.
going to be Friday night. I'm at the Blind Lemon.
Oh, okay.
Up in Mount Adams.
Mount Adams, yeah.
I love
That's
that
a cool place. Yeah.
And then I'm playing in Eaton at Taffy's. It's a listening room in Eaton, Ohio, near Dayton.
Near Dayton, yeah.
Saturday. And then Sunday, I'm the musical guest at Garden Park Unity Church for their service.
How about that?
So I'm doing all that this weekend. And I was just in Panama City. I just started traveling again.
I just came back from there.
A few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I was in Panama City and played there week before last. And then I've been to Jacksonville, and I've been to Panama City twice. And then I went to Mississippi, of course, for the award. But for the past year, I used to go up to Cincinnati every month. Mm-hmm. But I haven't been there in a year because I had to cancel stuff because the health, and then my dad. So tomorrow, this is the first time I've been up there in a year.
Wow.
And when I go back to Chicago in November, that's going to be the first time I've been there in over a year.
Wow.
And because life happened and a lot of things happened, and I had to stay off the road, and about the time I'd get back out again, then something else would happen. And
you love being on the road, don't you? You're a road warrior.
I enjoy it. Yeah, I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. I love going to the different cities and
meet new people.
And I have friends everywhere, and that I see while I'm traveling, and I get to spend time with my friends in different cities, and they're friends that I would not have if it were not for music. And that's true. People I would have never been in my life, and some of my dearest friends are out there, so I look forward to seeing.
What are some of your favorite cities to play? Where do you like to go?
Oh, well, Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Love Chicago.
I love Chicago. I love the D.C. area.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Great scene up there. Mm-hmm. Of course, I love Florida. Everywhere in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Florida's awesome. You pick a city, and it's good. And let's see. Oh, my. I love Cincinnati, of course.
Yeah.
Austin, Texas, which I need to get.
Never been there. I'd like to go.
Oh, I used to go there a couple of times a year, but I've not been since the pandemic. So that's somewhere else I got to get back to. Mm-hmm. I've played. I played in Phoenix. I liked it. California, of course, I've played out there. And, San Diego and Altadena. I played it. And I was really sad to hear this closed down. There was a really cool place that was very well known in Altadena, California, called the Coffee Gallery Backstage.
Yeah.
It was a very prestigious place, and I got to play there a couple of times.
Wow. Kind of the Bluebird of out there?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was Bob Stain. He retired and shut the doors, which happens a lot. Some venues since COVID didn't rebound. Everybody has not come back from it at all.
Yeah, we're still hurting.
And still hurting. So some live music venues are just had to fold it up, but some are still carrying on. And I always tell everybody, just, with these local shows, go support your local artists,
Absolutely. It's so
I've
important
seen what they charge for tickets for major acts and all that. Yeah, you go see them, but, you got your friends are out there playing. Go see them, buy some CDs and, go support.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Support your local musicians, too. Mm-hmm. You never know who you're going to see, especially in this town.
You don't know who you'll see.
You don't know. You might say, hey, I saw her back when.
Yeah, I knew her way back when.
Absolutely. Where do we find you? Online and stuff?
www.donnafrost.com is my official website.
Lots there.
A lot there. And I'm on Facebook, of course. I'm on Instagram, of course. X, Twitter, whatever it is. I don't use it. I don't think anybody does. And
I do a little bit. I tell on launch day, I'll say this person's on.
Yeah, I think my Reverb Nation post updates on Twitter. That's the only time I ever use it.
That's
like
good.
Donna Frost has a show in Reverb Nation. So I always say, just Google my name.
Google your name.
If you can't find me, you're not looking hard enough, because trust me, I'll pop up,
Donna
I'm
Frost.
not hard to find.
Not hard to find. Donna, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you.
It's really good to get to know you a little bit, and thanks for sharing your stories.
Thank you.
Such an inspiration. I love watching you perform.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, it really has been. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I want to tell folks about some of the shows that we've got coming up. If all goes to plan, right? Three of Hearts, who I've been wanting to get back on here. We've never had all three of them together, although all three have been on the show at one point or time. All three are wonderful artists in their own right. Randy Driscoll does amazing things, plays in California a lot, and New York and around here, and hosts Randy's Revival. And we're going to have Dr. Kim Smith, McLean. Dr. Kim McLean wrote the last few songs with Loretta Lynn, has a book out that we'll be talking about, and the lovely and talented, one of my favorite singers, Eve Salas. All together are Three of Hearts. Wait to hear their harmonies and the stories behind their songs. We have, do you remember, you know who's celebrating 60 years as a band this year in 2023? The band was Exile.
Oh my goodness, I was on a show with them.
Were you really?
I was playing with another artist, and we opened for them somewhere, I forget, somewhere in Kentucky.
Wow.
And then when Skeeter was inducted in the Kentucky Music Hall of Fame,
Skeeter Davis, yeah.
I performed. It was that because she was inducted after she died, and I performed in at the World Ceremony, and Exile was inducted that night.
Wow.
And so were the Kentucky Headhunters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
that
fantastic.
was a big night.
Well, they're going to be around this dining room table coming
They
up
are?
very, very
Cool.
soon. Yeah.
Oh, man, I love those guys.
And the Hall of Famer Kent Blasey's coming back. We just confirmation on that. So some good shows yet to come on the Songwriter Connection. And thank you again for joining us, and help us spread the word. We'll catch you next time. All right. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you for listening to the Songwriter Connection podcast. Find us on social media at Songwriter Connection. Also, listen to Dave Lanahan's Nashville Connections radio show. It streams live every Friday morning on WOBL and WNOI. Look for us on Facebook and YouTube. See you next time on Songwriter Connection.